Welcome back to We'll Get You Home, a place where we talk about all things real estate with Dave and Jackie. Dave, Jackie, how are you doing today?
Doing all right.
Are phenomenal.
Yeah. You guys did cleaning for a cause yesterday. Tell me a little bit about that before we dive into our topic.
Cleaning for a Reason is
Cleaning for a reason.
It's a nationwide service for cancer patients who are having a hard time getting their house cleaned up on their own. So one of our local cleaning companies has
Yeah, shout out to PCT Clean.
Yeah. They
RJ Patel.
I think we saw on the board yesterday they did 422 cleanings for cancer patients so far.
Wow.
423.
Oh, 423.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
incredible.
we participated the first time last year, and it was a real blessing. They come in and their crew is coming in to clean, and we get to come in and get in their way. But because sometimes that's what you feel like. But we did some dusting that had not been dusted in a while, and so we were pleased to do that, and it's a great organization, and RJ is such a giver, and so yeah, it was awesome to be able to help PCT Clean reach their goal. I mean, that's something they want to do, impact the community, and we were able to come alongside them a little bit and do that.
Good. Are they nationwide? Are they nationwide or just in Georgia?
The organization Cleaning for a Reason is nationwide. They've done cleanings in all 50 states, and they use local cleaning companies.
Yeah, the founders in Texas.
Okay.
And so just to give you a little background on that, Debbie got a phone call once from a lady who needed cleaning because she was on chemo, and after the conversation, she realized that she couldn't afford it. So when she hung up, and then Debbie was like, "I should just give it to her for free. Why did I not just give it to her for free?" And so she organized this where she does give it for free.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, all these cleanings. That's the thing about RJ. He's sending out a crew and paying his crew, but he's not charging the cancer. And so that's what we think is so cool. So each of these, and we a couple of months ago we were at a dinner, that was basically just kind of saying thank you to people. I had several plates of hors d'oeuvres, so for me it was great. But there were two new cleaning companies, one from Ohio, one from Pennsylvania, I think, who were there just to shadow RJ and his wife and their company for a week. And we're going to also participate in their communities with Cleaning for a Reason. So RJ is doing more than just cleaning here in the Atlanta area of his market. He's actually, helping to expand it, across the country. So phenomenal organization. And again, we're just humbled to be able to be a part of it. It really is. It's really cool to be able to go in and clean somebody's house. I realize, okay, I need to come home and dust my house. He does a great job, but I like dusting. So I guess that's going to be my new role.
Good. Put him to work, Jackie.
Yeah.
All right. Well, today we've talked about the buying process, and today I want to talk to you guys about the listing process, the selling process, when you represent sellers as the listing agent. And so to start, will you just explain the beginning of that, when you meet the client, your interview process? We talked about last week some questions to ask realtors, and so what do you guys like to do when you first go into a listing appointment?
I would say the first thing to do is get their motivations, understand why they want to sell. Because everything really hinges on that. Timing, price, everything is, what is your motivation?
Can you give me some example motivations?
Transfer, illness, kids out of the house, baby coming.
Okay.
Mom or dad moving back to, they don't have a room. The last several years we've seen blended families, and not even meaning, a couple of blended families, your kids, my kids, but sometimes it's our kids coming back because of COVID and those kind of things.
Mhm.
So yeah, finding out what their motivation to sell is, why they're wanting to sell, will also tell you how quickly they need to sell, which adds to the pricing of the home. Yeah, it's always, to me, it's always about questions versus telling. So asking versus telling.
Mhm.
There's a lot of agents that come in. I remember going to I won't mention the sales trainer, he's a national sales trainer, back when I was young in the business. And he was telling us how to overcome objections and to take control of the interview process and the listing process. And I always hated the idea of taking control. It's like, I'm going to serve these people, not to take control of these people. But he said he was at a listing appointment, which I doubt. But he he said he was sitting there and the seller was telling him, I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. He said, finally, he just stopped the guy and says, wait a minute. Who's the realtor here? The guy said, well, you are. He goes, well, then, okay, sit down, shut up, and I'll tell you what you need to do.
Yikes.
I know, right? Really? It just floored me that anybody would say, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some clients I wanted to say that to, never did. But yeah, these people are making a major life change.
Mhm.
And you want to figure out why.
Yeah, and the motivation can really help you determine whether it's timing or price that they want to focus on. Because if they have to get out quick, they might be able to let go a little bit on the price. But if they got time, they may want to just how much you can get.
Okay.
Not recommending you go out there and just test the market listing. No.
Yeah. Well, and if you, without finding out the motivation, you don't really have the tools you need and the information you need to to serve them properly. If a house stays on the market too long, everybody in the area, mostly the agents in the area, they think something's wrong with it.
Mhm.
And it might have just been listed inappropriately from a price perspective. And by the way, price sells houses.
Mhm.
I mean, the very nicest homes are the ones that maybe get multiple offers and over list price even now in this market. But for the most part, if you don't price it properly with comparables, the market knows. Buyers know. There's too much information out there now, so they know whether your home is priced with the market, with what is sold recently, or if you're unrealistic. And if you're unrealistic, then they think, okay, this is unrealistic seller, or there's something wrong with the property.
And it used to be that if it was on the market for a while, people, like Dave said, think there's something wrong with it. Normally, in a balanced market, 90 days is not unheard of. Last couple of years, if you're 7 days, people think that, well, it's a dog, what's wrong with it?
7 days.
It depends on the market. Everything does. I think we say that in every video. It depends on the market.
Hey, if it rings true, it's true.
We've had some houses that stayed on the market 7 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, literally.
There was one that I pressed the button and I got in the car and I had a phone call.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about your strategy for pricing appropriately, and when do you kind of like, because I know the seller sometimes has, well, probably all the time has an opinion on what they want to get for their house. So how do you advise them one way or the other on what's best? What's your strategy based on your experience? And I know you've been in the industry a long time, so.
I see real estate as a profession. There's a lot of people who got real estate licenses who don't see it as a profession. They see it as a hobby, or they see it as a second business, a sideline.
Mm-hmm.
I see it as a profession, much like people see accountants or attorneys. When people come to an accountant or an attorney, they come to them for expert advice. I guess one of my pet peeves is, on on real estate is agents who figure out what a neighborhood might be going for, or what a house of similar size and age might be going for in an area. Maybe not even the subdivision, there might not even be sales in that subdivision, but in a 1 mile, area around it, radius around it, they go and get comparables. And then they come in and they sit down for listing appointment. They've never seen the home before. And they then try to sell the seller on a price based on an internet search. And I don't think that's what they're paying us for. They're paying us for expert advice. And to me, you cannot price a home until you have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we do that's, I think, different, and maybe it's old school, maybe it's not, I just think it's professional, is we come in, we talk to them about the sales process. We talk to them about what we bring to the table from an experience perspective. We talk to them about, where we earn our commission is from contract to closing, not as much from listing to contract, because there's so much information. People have to try really hard to not find your home.
Mm-hmm.
So, where the seller gets a return on their investment in us is from contract to closing, getting across the finish line, vetting the contract, vetting the buyer, and then getting through the steps to closing. And so we don't give a number, a list price on the first visit. We come, we explain the process, we see the home, and then we go price it against the comparables based on carnal knowledge. We now have seen this property, and we know whether it's got granite or quartz or formica, in the kitchen. We know what the floors look like, the walls look like. We know it's decorated well. We know the slope of the loft. We know if it's backing up to I-75 here in Atlanta, or if it's backing up to a park.
Mm-hmm.
We know those things and can price it accordingly. So.
Okay. And I would just like to add something. I know I want to ask you, do you ever get pushback or kind of like hesitancy when you do go to a listing appointment like that? Because I know, for example, when I got my real estate license, comparables are something that you're taught to do right off the bat, know how to do comparables. And I know seeing the home and knowing all the other factors comes with experience in the industry, but right off the bat, I think especially for new agents, and I can't speak for everyone, but I think it's come to be a little bit expected when you go to a listing appointment, you have to have a price or comparables to show them. Otherwise, you seem like you don't know what you're doing. And so I could see how a lot of agents do that because it's what you're taught in class. And then you go out and you're trying to get listing appointments. You feel like you have to have all those comparables to have something to explain. So do you ever get pushback? Do sellers, do you think they expect that or not?
Well, when Dave is right, what we do is we go to the house before we price it, but we don't go in blind.
Right.
We do the research beforehand, like you're talking about,
right.
And we find the comps, and then we can even bring them to the listing with us and go, here is something that we'll consider, but look, it has a finished basement and yours is on a slab, so we're going to have to. So we fine tune it, and then give them an idea,
Yeah.
where it's been.
We can give them a range. The thing that I guess I was trying to get across is real estate has become like a fuller brush salesman. No one knows what fuller brush is, where the fuller brush man would come around and he'd want to sell you a fuller brush and not get off your porch until you bought the fuller brush.
And my mother did.
Or the Kirby vacuums, or
knives.
In fact, that's how old I am. People selling Encyclopedia Britannicas, door to door.
Yeah.
And now it's AT&T or your internet or your phone or whatever. And real estate is more difficult than that.
Right.
Again, we talk about comparables. Well, compare is the root word.
Mm-hmm.
But every property
What do you
is
compare it?
absolutely unique.
That's right.
Right.
Every property is unique. There's not two identical properties on this earth.
I mean, literally, we will either before the listing appointment or directly after the listing appointment, after we've seen it, we'll then go and having that information in our folder, go and drive by those properties to see where they are. Even just knowing, is it a corner lot? Is it a cul-de-sac lot? Is it the first lot in the neighborhood that everybody drives by?
Are there wires?
Yeah, are there high tension wires behind it? You know, and everybody thinks they're gonna get cancer, or if they have a baby, it'll have a third leg. You know, if there's high tension wires, but people think it, so perfection is reality many times. So we want to give them the appropriate information versus just, and again, it's people teach, when you get in the door, you don't leave until you have the listing. I think that's manipulative. You know, and there's agents out there who made a ton of money doing that, and they do a great job. I'm not saying that. I just like taking the extra step, and the majority of the time when I explain that to a seller, they appreciate it.
Okay, that was what I was getting at.
Yeah, they understand the reason behind you know, doing it that way. So,
but to that point too, we can't take too much time after leaving to get back to them with their.
Oh no, we'll tell them within 24 hours.
Yeah,
We'll be back to you tomorrow.
they won't be waiting.
Yeah. I figured you guys were quick, but I just wanted to see about any pushback or anything, because I know there's like you said, a lot of different, you know, methods and ways to do it. So and then after you get, you know, you've come to an agreement on the list price, and what happens after that? How do you prepare them for showings? How do you set that up? Actually listing the property, and then going through once you get a contract. How you go through offers, things like that.
Well, the very next thing after we secure the listing, you know, is, you know, photos.
Yeah. Then of course I asked Dave to write a beautiful description.
Yeah.
He's very good at that.
Jackie is really good at the check marks, and I'm really good at the BS. I can wax eloquent with and talk gooder than most people. So I like doing that part. It gives it scratches the writing itch, you know. But it's also you know, helping them in preparing their home for sale. You know, decluttering if we need to bring in, you know, a stager, and then getting, you know, our photographer John Humphreys, God bless him, what a great photographer John is, getting him in there to make the $500,000 house look like $1 million house, and the $1 million house look like a $5 million house. He just he really does a great job of giving a real view or perception of the home that makes people want to come in and see it. But that's really what you're doing with photography.
Yeah, and his talent is also that he'll walk in a room and go, you know, I'm going to take a picture of this angle because you don't want to see the back of a couch. You know, he understands that your house looks different online than it does when you're living in it.
And let's go back.
He's rolled up rugs in people's houses too.
Oh, he does. And he's taking stuff and put it down in the sink where you couldn't see it, and then puts it back up, or, you know, he'll open blinds or take blinds down or valances. He knows how to make a house look phenomenal. He's not just in there 15-minute shoot of the house and then out. It'll take him an hour or two to shoot a house. And we appreciate him for that. And he's not cheap. You know, that's an expense that we bear in order to serve the client. But I want to step back for a second about pricing, you know, because, you know, when we're sitting there and we're doing comps and we're pricing a home, second pet peeve.
Dave's pet peeves.
Dave's pet peeves. Second pet peeve is and I think we might have talked about this in other, you know, maybe another video, but we price things based on internet searches. So the vast majority of internet searches, if you put in a price range, I've never seen a range yet that you could check, and most people don't put in this range, but if they're looking in the, $700,000 to $800,000 range, and if I ask somebody, what range are you looking? What do you think you can afford? They'll say, oh, between 700 and 800. They never go, I don't know, 695 to about, 790.
Yeah, you have mentioned this before, but it bears repeating because I think it is important, and I think what you do is excellent, and so I'll just let you keep going.
Yeah, so we'll price a home. On the low side, people think in $25,000 increments. Mm-hmm. 300 to 325 or 275 to 300. On the higher end, when you get above 500,000 or so, people start thinking in $50,000 increments. 500 to 550, 550 to 600. When you get above 800,000, people start thinking in the $100,000 increments. 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 800 to $1 million sometimes. But they never think, psychologically, they don't think in odd numbers.
Right.
And odd numbers would mean anything other than 25, 50, 75, or 100. They think in 25, 50, 75, $100,000 increments. Mm-hmm. So we always price things, there. If we think it's a $535,000 house, we might price it at 550 because it'll show up in the 500 to 550 price search.
Right.
At the end of that search, but it'll show up there.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think the house, is worth, 560, we might price it at 575, just slightly higher. If we think it's a 555 house, we'll price it at 550. Encourage them to go there and just stay firm. Mm-hmm. You can price a little higher and come down if you're a little above what you think it'll sell for. If you're just right there, price it low and slightly lower and just stay firm. No is a perfectly valid counter offer. Someone, if you have it at 500 and they go, I'll give you 475, you can just say no. We could have priced it at 510 or 515. We price it at 500. We're going to stay firm. And guess what? The comparables from their selling agent, the buyer's agent, they'll be able to show that to them in writing. And so we want to be the low end of a high search and the high end of a low search, and the 25, 50, 75, 100 gets us there. Okay. 699.9 misses the low end of that high search by $100, and that makes no sense.
So it's just about appearing in more searches, which makes a lot of sense.
The job of the internet is to get exposure.
Right.
The only job of the internet is to get exposure. Why get cute and say $699.9? Go to 700. People are going to think, wow, that's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. People are not done, and we give them credit for having a little bit of intelligence.
All right.
So then, next, what happens after the pictures?
We list it.
And how many websites, after it hits an MLS, how many websites is that house on?
It's over 1,000. I'm not really sure how many anymore. Depends on how many brokers are out there with putting IDXs on their websites, because it will all pull from the same information. All those websites that you see have the same information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they all pull from the multiple listing services. Everybody, every Dave and Jackie team out there, every RE/MAX team, Coldwell Banker team, Keller Williams team, all of them, and all the brands themselves pull that information for their website from the same exact place. And so regardless of where you end up in your search on the internet, the house is going to be displayed because everybody pulls from the same place.
Mm-hmm. All starting spots. And you can go on relocalhome.com, by the way, and do a search and find all the listings out there too.
Yeah. So like I said before, you have to work really hard to not find a listing, that we put in, or any realtor really puts in. The finding the home is not the hard part. When I started in this business, we listed, took pictures and listed homes in magazines that were in Kroger's and Publix and in front of Walmarts and gas stations and all those kind of things, hoping that people would pick up our magazine if they're looking for a home, thumb through it, and find your house and call you. You know, it was harder work. Then we had to send out flyers through a company called Flyer Express.
Mhm.
And now all the things are done digitally. You know, we still receive flyers, we just receive them in our inbox, you know, on our computer, you know, our email. So it's really difficult to not find the home. What's difficult is negotiating the contract, you know, and that's where the experience comes in. Is from the time you get a contract, getting it from there through the due diligence and the finance and the appraisal and the repair and, you know, and all those things to get it to the closing table where money changes hands. You know, that's the that's where, you know, the money is made by a realtor.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about that in our last 10 minutes we have here?
Well, I think the biggest thing is gotchas, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other thing is the seller wants to know, okay, with this offer, what am I walking away with? What's my bottom line?
What's the net?
So, and there's different things that affect that. You know, whether the buyer's asking for closing costs, or if they're going to be having a long due diligence and doing all kinds of inspections. You know, we've had people come in with doing tree inspections, plumbing inspections with cameras, termite, of course, roof inspections, structural inspections. You know, if there's, those are the things that could affect the bottom line later on. So gotta keep an eye on the mentality of the buyer as well.
Yeah, let's not, you know, in that vein, you know, let's not talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Is, you know, how much is the agent going to charge in a commission? You know, what is again right now? There's a big lawsuit about collusion. You know, the realtors collude to charge sellers, you know, too much money. We make the seller pay the buyer's agent commission. Yeah, I was thinking a lot about this, and you know, in this one case, and I think we're going to talk about this in depth next week. But in this one case, one of the plaintiffs, you know, the accusers, is saying, "I've bought 5 homes and sold 4 in my lifetime, and every time I sold a home, I had to pay the buyer's agent." And it's like I wasn't given a choice in whether I did that or not. And that took 3% out of my pocket every time I did it. And it occurred to me, she had bought 5 houses and sold 4. Obviously, she was living in the 5th. If I'd been the defense attorney, I would have asked, well, did you say, oh, no, seller, you don't have to pay my agent, I'll pay them myself? And no, she allowed the seller on the 5 homes she bought to pay her agent. But then when she got to thinking about, well, what about when I sold my house? You know, I shouldn't have to pay that. I'll take advantage of it on the buy side, but I don't want it to affect me on the sell side. The beauty of cooperation in our business is that we've gone from, in the 60s and 70s and before, you know, Coldwell Banker had their listings. And here in Atlanta back then, there was Northside Realty, which was the largest, and they had their listings. And if you wanted to see a Northside listing, you had to call a Northside agent. A Coldwell Banker agent couldn't show Northside listings and vice versa. They got together and said, let's put all the information in one place, aggregate, you know, the information, the listings, and we'll cooperate with each other. You know, you gotta remember, if someone charges a 6% commission and they get the buyer themselves, that agent gets the buyer themselves, you still pay them 6%. The agent is saying my fee is 6%, and that's what we charge. We charge 6% because we're worth it. And if another agent brings the buyer, which happens over 80% of the time, so we're happy to cooperate with them, because there are more agents out there than us.
Mhm.
The chances that they'll have a good buyer are better. I mean, take those odds to Vegas. You know, someone's going to bring a buyer 80% of the time. You're going to win 80% of the time.
Mhm.
So, you know, we're getting 6%, and we're saying we're going to give half of that to a qualified buyer's agent who brings us a qualified buyer. And it's built into the price now.
Mhm.
You know, the cost of that commission is actually built into the price of the home. So we spend a lot of time on that in the listing appointment so that they know what they're getting and why they're paying it versus selling it themselves for sale by owner, going to a discounter, you know, who might charge 1% or less.
Mhm.
Flat fee. And where the gotchas are in that, oh yeah, you can list it for $750 plus 1/3 of 1% at closing. You know, if I show it once, if I take pictures, if I put a lockbox on it, if I put a sign up, like, oh well, now it's 1%. And if if you want me to negotiate the contract for you, then I'm gonna have to charge you 3. You know, there's a lot of things in the marketing that you don't hear until, you know, oh, you want to sign in the yard? Well, that's another, you know, $200.
Right, it's like Spirit Airlines, you know, you can get your seat, but then you got to pay for everything else.
Yeah, you want to bring a bag with you?
Right,
I think what Dave is trying to say is commissions have always been negotiable.
right.
And always will be.
They are always, and we have agents that or sellers who will ask, well, is it negotiable? We'll say absolutely.
Mhm.
What do you think I'm worth?
Mhm.
And go from there. What do you think my worth is? And how much do you want to pay me to do a great job for you?
Right.
So
And what do you want me to pull back on?
pull
and
back.
not
What do you want me to not do?
Mhm.
Things I just listed that I do.
Okay.
That's what that's worth. But the bottom line is when someone comes, when we're able to get in front of somebody to help them achieve a life goal, our first thing is how do we serve you?
Mhm.
It's a servant approach. It's not a sit down, shut up, and I'll tell you what to do approach. You know, it's let me ask questions and I'm here to listen.
Mhm.
And that's what we try to do in every situation. So anyway, I think, you know, when you're going to list a house, no matter where you are in the country, look for that kind of a realtor, someone who knows what they're doing, obviously,
Mhm.
but who's there to serve you, not use you.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anything to add, Jackie, before we?
You talked about offers, you know, and best part about that is trying to figure out what the bottom line is. Last spring, we had multiple offers, very, very common, and you know, doing a comparison is one of the things that we do. Type alone, how much money they're putting down,
Mhm.
kind of things factor into making sure you get to the closing table, and that is really what we want to do.
Okay.
So basically, sometimes the largest net is not the best contract.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and then of course, before you go to the closing, there's going to be a walkthrough. So you know, make sure you keep the house in good condition even after contract.
And that you
Yeah.
did what you agreed to in your contract, fix what
That's
you
right.
agreed to fix and everything, right?
What you
Right.
agree to fix and what you agree to leave behind. Don't let that shelf get on the truck.
We've had that
If
happen.
you said that it was going to say, because someone's going to follow you to Florida to get
Hey, I come back. Put on the truck and come back. Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, great. Well, you guys are based in Kennesaw, Georgia, but you kind of work within the perimeter of North Atlanta. Is that correct?
Yeah, northwest Atlanta, from Atlanta, you know, going north and west toward
Macon?
Chattanooga and Macon now. Yeah, we were starting in Macon this last weekend. And,
Yeah, you went 2 hours north when we
And 2
talked
hours
about one
south.
house, and now you're going 2 hours south to Macon. You guys have if you get the deal, you go kind of 2 hours is your range, huh?
Listen, these were both for, you know, dear friends or family. If we had you know, a buyer wanting us to help them find homes in Macon,
Mhm.
we would have put them with somebody in Macon. I've got agents in Macon. Georgia Mommy's my Macon guy. He was there that. But this was family, so so we spent a couple of days down there, one in preparation and one in actually showing.
So just to touch on that too, if we do refer down to another agent, having us refer you instead of just going down and finding your own agent helps us to stay in the loop to make sure that everything's going smoothly.
Then we can be your third party, liaison in the deal.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I'll put your contact information below so that everybody who's looking to buy or sell list in the Atlanta area can give you a call and set up an appointment.
And we will get you home.